First off, everyone needs to listen to your podcast. I think you guys are probably my most favorite industry podcast out there because you guys really teach actors how to actually be entrepreneurs, how to actually market themselves. So I also do feel like every actor should think of themselves as a business person.
Well, we'll see. I always ask AI.
What do you mean?
I ask AI for the best titles. Well, because you can upload the transcript of the conversation, and it helps you, the thing about AI is it's actually quite interesting that everything has to do with the prompt. Everything is about how good of a prompt you give it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I've gotten to a point now where it's like my prompts are like 5 paragraphs long. So it's like, it's almost like I should have just wrote the thing myself.
I know what you mean.
But what's useful about that is, like, especially when, and of course I make changes, but like when I'm doing titles or the descriptions of the episode, like you upload the transcript and you copy and paste the prompt. And
no, I have become quite a fan of ChatGPT. I find because you could. I love. Actually, here's interesting. So we're both on this audition platform now, working with these wonderful giving actors, and but one of the person we both worked with, I won't say the name, but she told me that she uploaded a script that had been text blacked out, and ChatGPT could still read it. So it was able to pull text and summaries from blacked out text. And I will, actually, it's interesting. I'm directing Streetcar next year. And I put the script in because what was I asking about? It was something super complicated about Varsuviana, which is this polka song that's in the script the whole time. And it was something about that. And I wanted to know more about how that related to what he describes in the script as quote unquote Negro music. Because I was like, what does that even mean? Like I was genuinely curious, like that phrase. Right. And I was like, what are those like and what does that say about the world? Like I asked it a question like that, just for its opinion and perspective, and it's able to scan the script and even do an analysis.
Right. And you roll with it, right? And it's like because I'm doing the Brothers Karamazov, so I'm like working through the book, which is, it's funny, like, now I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, it took 300 pages to be like, oh yeah, this is a super important book. I'm kind of like, I don't really get this, but
we did it in school.
It's really, well, like the center of the book is anyway, but it's fucking, it's hard, right? It's hard to just like, and it's the kind of book that you need to like, you need to really you have to just read it. You have to read it, and you need like silence, like because it's so dense. And that's just not life right now. And so it's like what ChatGPT will help me do is I'll be like, okay, just explain what this means, and then so it'll explain, like, because what the Brothers Karamazov is, somebody's just talking for 20 pages. And so if you don't understand like one sentence, then you don't understand anything else. So like, what does this mean? Then boom, and it sort of unlocks everything else for me, so I can read it. And
it's actually a good bizarre segue into like literally what this episode is even about.
Tell me more. I was in a good segue.
Well, this episode is called is about faking it till you make it.
Sure.
And here's why it relates to me to AI and ChatGPT. I think part of what's happening, per your point, is because I was thinking about this, how it relates to us as artists. Like, rather than us doing the analytical work, the brain space work, a lot of what we're doing now is sort of asking a robot to do that for us. Okay. Yeah. So then that's a version of faking it. I'm faking my journey of understanding in order to get to another layer until I make it, quote unquote, whether quite literally I'm getting a analysis of these 20 pages in order to then jump to the next moment. And that's
I'd like
kind of
to.
fake.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to ChatGPT to try and make sense of that segue. But no, I like
No. I know why it doesn't
I'm
make
just
sense,
joking. I'm
but I
busting your
think
balls.
ChatGPT is a version of a cheat, is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I mean, well, look, the last thing I'll say about it, because it's not the point of the episode, is like, especially around dramaturgical work and basic understanding, it doesn't like, yeah, to me it's not cheating, because what's the difference between having a dramaturg come in and explain that like what that polka music means versus asking a robot to do it? There's no difference. I mean, maybe argue the human does it better, offers different insights, but like you're not acting, you're not presenting an, unlike what I think a lot of academic actors do in intellect, they present an essay on something as their performance or as their directing, like, this is my essay about this thing. But like, that's not what we do as actors. Like, we just play the character. So it's like, to me, it's not cheating. But I understand what you're saying. But besides the point, yes, this is a very interesting concept of an episode, and you were very excited because to do this one. And why is this something you think about quite a bit? Because I think you do think about it quite a bit.
For over 10 years, when I think about this work, I've many people over the years have heard me say, if I could write a book about the conceit of growing a life and a career as an artist, it would be called Fake It Till You Make It.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be called Fake It Till You Make It because that's what I believe low-key the game of growing anything all kind of almost is. One weird example that I always give is I think about a therapist. And I make this case, and this is the reason why this relates is because artists over the years say, I don't feel, and we're going to talk about examples, but there's so many moments of artists in particular not feeling ready to do X, Y, or Z effort. And I always use this random example of a therapist. That's not true. But like a therapist goes to school or a psychoanalyst goes to school and they say, you're going to be confronted with a lot of tough issues. Nothing prepares you for the first time, I imagine, that someone comes in and says, I think I'm going to kill myself this afternoon.
It's a great point. Yeah, especially like something esoteric like that, where it's like, yes, like academia is important around it, and training is important. I'm not here to like, diminish the profession, but at the same time, like, you can't learn about people from a book, right? Like, kind of what you're saying, like nothing
exactly.
Or like, war, right? It's like, you train. Think about like going into war for the first time, or like going into combat, right? Like nothing can prepare you for that. You just, you prepare as best you can. And so I think what, the perspective that I have on it is the is leaping before you're ready, right? Or doing before you're ready to do it. I think that, there's a that's to me sort of like what Fake It Till You Make It embodies.
Before you think you're ready to do it,
right,
I would maybe
exactly,
say.
Sure. And you because obviously we'll talk more about this, if you wait until you're ready to do something. Now sometimes and this will be something that I talk about later, like, I don't think you can fake it till you make it with everything. I don't personally believe that, because I believe that you're gonna probably overwhelm and overextend yourself in too many ways. But like a couple of things in life, like you can't wait till you're quote ready to do something. Yeah, otherwise you're never going to feel. Think about being a parent. You hear about this all the time about being a parent. It's like nobody feels ready to be a parent. But like, if you want to have kids and you want to wait till you feel ready to have kids, you're never going to have kids. This is what I hear all the time, from parents that I know. And so to me, it's about like doing something before you're ready to do it. And so you feel, quote, to quote, you think or feel ready to do it.
Yeah. And I want to give you I'll give you a real life example that I think relates, and it's industry related. The very first Law and Order thing that I was booked it here in New York was at SVU, and it was a co-star, but a pretty good one. Pretty several scenes and an interesting little part. And I showed up, and already, Mike, I just want to be clear, I have no idea where I'm going. I don't know. It's on. I don't know. And sets. You never really know who you're to talk to. You're just sort of looking for people to point you in the direction of wherever the trailer might be, or wherever the PAs or ADs are, whatever. So I show up, and you're kind of already faking it. And then I put my shit on, and here's the next level of faking it. I think I've told the story, and I'm walking to set, and they go, "Oh, Ice-T's stuck in Germany, so you're just going to do the scene with Kelly Giddish, and you'll rework it." Well, already I'm okay. Oh, cool. I'm faking it till I make it because I'm terrified. I have no clue what's going to happen. And I'm saying this, though, because I do believe that's just a creative. There's so many. I could give countless. But what else am I supposed to do in that moment?
And why is that faking it? That's my question, is like, what makes that? Because one of the questions you ask, which I think is really important, is what's the difference between confidence, deception, faking, what we're talking about now, faking it, and growth? Like, so why is that? That's a great example of something. Why is that example you just gave feel like faking it?
Well, it certainly wasn't confidence, meaning between confidence, deception, and growth, I would argue it's closer to growth. Because because what I wanted to do was say, this makes me really uncomfortable, and I'm really scared now, and I wish you had told me that 30 minutes earlier when I was looking at the sides, for today, that had the same line breakout as we were doing this for the scene with 3 people. So and the reason why this relates to this also, we keep talking about authenticity in this moment. And it relates just because it was not me being I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing.
Yeah, like that's because just to be super clear, like this is an example of faking it because you felt like you were being put into a position that you were not prepared or capable potentially of handling, almost like, or there was a large part of you. So like, what made that like a faking it kind of situation was like, it wasn't even like the fact that you were put in that position, it's how you handled it. It's like, I'm sure you weren't like walking around and be like, so sorry, like, I don't know where I'm going, this is my first time on set, like, which would have been real or whatever, like what, or like going to like the director being, hey, just so you know, like, I know we have to do this, but I'm really scared and uncomfortable, right? Or like, just be patient with me, right? Like that would have been the quote, like, I guess, like, because the circumstance you can't help, but I'm assuming that what was quote fake was your like almost the reaction of like, oh great, no problem, like it doesn't bother me at all. So that's
exactly
like so that's what the quote faking it is like almost denying in a way your insecurity or repressing your insecurity about something that you don't feel necessarily totally ready to take on. And so,
that's right.
How that relates to, confidence is it's kind of like, actually, well, I guess a couple weeks ago now, the showing up as your bold self, right? It's like, I think of confidence now, the action of confidence, which is, is taking risks, right? Is really taking risks, exposing yourself to failure, because somebody who is confident does that. If you have a very low self-esteem, or you have a very sort of like insecure nature or fragile ego or whatever the fuck, if you take a risk and you fail, you're going to be, that's like the worst thing that could happen. You're not securing yourself enough to almost deal with a failure, right? So when you take risks, it's a sign, like, and expose yourself to that failure. It's a sign of confidence because you know you can handle it, right?
Yes.
So I would say that this idea of faking it is a form of confidence, right? Where you are putting yourself in a situation that you don't feel a quote dangerous situation to an
Yes.
extent that you do not feel ready for, and you're assuming, right, that you're not going to crumble underneath that pressure, or you're not going to be destroyed, or that you will or that you will actually deliver on the thing, right? And out of curiosity, like, you doing that, did it put you in a better mindset going into the scene, like almost embodying that, like, this doesn't bother me, I got this, it's all good? Like, what did that do sort of for your mindset walking into the scene?
Well, it wasn't great because I remember then we did it, and I remember just like ran through it, and I remember Kelly looked at the amazing Warren Late, who wrote Sideman. He was show running, and he goes, she looked at him. We finished. She goes, okay, and she goes, so we're gonna just roll with it. She wanted to improv. So she started asking me some questions, and then we basically ended up improvising the entire scene. So to get back to your question, how did now? Let me just say this: I do well in high pressure situations.
Sure.
I do well in that buddy. He's so sweet. This guy wants to do this workshop with you. I just want to be clear. He still hasn't gotten in his email, but he's so serious.
I'm gonna take care of it tonight. I'll take care of it. Tell my buddy to slow down.
He's such a sweetheart. Anyway,
but what's interesting is about, like, you saying, like, there are some people who lock in, and actually, this is proven. They actually test for this in the military. There are people who lock in under pressure and actually have a score higher on IQ tests.
Thrive.
And they thrive under pressure. Like, that is a real thing, and that's the kind of people they look for to, like, run, like, to be like elite special forces or whatever the fuck, is people like that. And what's interesting to hear you talk about this is because I want to talk about deception, which is different. And when you're doing a bad version of faking it till you make it, I think, you run the risk of deception. Now, why is deception, like, bad, right? As long as nobody's being, because literally, if you are truly unprepared for something, right, if you truly are, if there is true risk to other people, and if let's use the classic example. When I put horseback riding on my resume, which is like, nobody knows how to horseback ride, really. It's like, but people put it because they assume they'll learn. Well, if you lie about that, and you show up to set and you can't do it, like, you potentially have cost the set, the production, like, tens of thousands of dollars, because they have to change something or they have to do something. So, like, there's true, genuine harm. Or, like, in business, right? Like, which is a common thing, like, where people, overpromise and underdeliver about their product and what it can do. And, like, if people are investing and they can lose money, like, there's genuine harm.
I'd like to give an example there, because this relates. And I think, and to me, Elizabeth Theranos, who's in prison now, I defend her a lot. And I defend her a lot based on this idea, because I think intention plays a role in what you're saying. Meaning, I do not believe Elizabeth Theranos set out to deceive all of Silicon Valley and the medical community and those investors. Her intention was to create this machine that could draw blood and then do But so what she had to do? What do entrepreneurs have to do? We've talked about this. They have a hypothesis.
Yes.
What do people do with art? I think this piece of art is going to be bigger than Hamilton.
Right. You're making something out of nothing. Now, the difference with Elizabeth Theranos is people were genuinely medically, like, she should be in jail, because, like, people were medically hurt by what she did. Like there was.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, there were people who she was claiming that it was gonna help them with their, so she was treating, or I forgot what it was. People got false test results. So like people were like, she has blood on her, literal blood on her hands.
I don't know if that's true. Here's why I don't know if that's true. Because I've read and watched, because she's interesting to me. I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying it's not true, by the way, Mike. What I know is that it ultimately was not working. And she kept finding more dollars, and rather than being upfront about this, where the progress of the whole business, she and her partner, whatever his name was, continued to bury until they reached a point of no return. But that's an example where, and I think we'll talk about this, communicating. But here's where the reason why I'm a little defensive of her, and it's kind of your point, in my opinion, you're making, which is the difference between like deception and faking it till you make it, to me, does lie a lot in intention. I'm not saying people can't make mistakes in having good intentions and then ultimately hurt people through deception. But there is a thin line.
I think it's very thin, and it's funny. It depends on what's happening. If you're making healthcare equipment, or like you're handling the nuclear codes, like it doesn't matter what your intention is. Or it's like you're handling, I think, it's kind of like, this, not to go back to the COVID episode that we ended up releasing, the portions, but it's like, it depends. It depends. I think it purely depends on what it is that you're actually dealing with here. And, it's because, yes, there's going to have to be, of course, when somebody says, when we talk about examples, like this is going to be the next Hamilton, you have to paint a vision. And an entrepreneur, and I would argue artists with creative projects, they have to make something out of nothing. They have nothing to back up that their musical is going to be the next Hamilton. They have absolutely nothing to back that up. But
sure.
But they have to build something out of nothing. So you have to tell a story. You have to create an aspirational story. When an entrepreneur is starting a company or building a product that they're still developing and saying all the things it's going to do, right? They're again building something out of nothing. There is a gap between where they are and where they want to go, and they do not know. They can't know for a fact that they will fill that gap, a la Elizabeth, what's her face in Theranos, but
Elizabeth Holmes is her name, and Theranos was the company.
Right.
Sorry,
so it's right, like Holmes. So absolutely, like there is, and that is that technically a lie? Are you saying something that is not true? No, you're actually not saying something is not true. Now, the difference, I think, and why to me that was deception, what she did, was because she was actively lying about where they were in their progress. That is where the lie and the deception also comes into play. Is she was lying about what was actually, that's when it becomes a lie. I can't say for a fact, for a truth, that this is going to work. You make per your point, you make a hypothesis and you try to do it. But then if I do something and then lie about the results of what I did to somebody, that's a lie. That is a lie. Did you see the difference between those two things?
I do. I mean, here's what's coming up for me, and we're about to talk about this in a little bit. But like, I'm thinking about when I would go to a funder,
yes,
and say, here's why this company is amazing. The company I'm running is great. I'm not going to talk about all the problems necessarily. I'm not going to talk about slow ticket sales here, underperforming fundraising. That's not the picture I'm going to paint. And if someone says, well, let's say that we're underperforming fundraising by 30%, making this up, up to that point. Well, how's fundraising going this year? It's going great. We've seen a lot of interest from some new potential. Because that's the name of the game.
Yeah, no, it's a fine line because, like, look, I think you're making a good point because, per your point, even if your company is, let's take the fundraiser example. It's like, that's a great point. It's like, this is what our company's doing, even as you're potentially in the shitter in that moment. We are going to be a great company. That's not a lie. That's something you are aspiring to. So that's not a lie. You're not lying about anything. You are, per your point, almost trying to manifest what you want to happen and speaking it into existence and building, hopefully, a plan to actually make that happen. You're not just but then per your point, that is kind of, when somebody asks you, well, how is fundraising going right now? And it's not going good. And you say it's going great. Now you're in the borderline of like deception versus faking it till you make it. If they say, well, how much money have you raised? And you lie about the number, that is, it's interesting. But per your point, what do you do? What can you do in that situation? It's like, what can you do now? Do you tell the truth? But then again, like, it's on you to, part of what the fake it till you make it mindset is to spin it for yourself in a positive way. Like, we've been talking to a lot of people, and we have a lot of interest. Right now we've raised this amount, but what people are looking for is that one person who is going to take the lead. Like, do you sort of spin? Do you have to spin the thing as opposed to just blatantly lying about how much you've raised?
Well, it's funny because, part of what's coming up for me is this idea of sales and how sales relate to artists, and artists don't like to be sold and artists don't like to sell. Because that's what business does. I mean, that's what, when you're trying to sell, you just said it, you're spinning something. But let's talk about the psychology of this idea, because I actually think this is interesting.
Sure.
Hey, you guys, Mike here. I know, jump scare. That was a segment from our latest episode of Creative Risk. And this episode, the full episode, exclusively lives on our Patreon. So if you enjoyed what you've heard so far and you want to dive deeper, consider joining the Patreon community of Creative Risk. We offer 3 membership tiers starting at just $5. As a member, you'll get access to ad-free episodes, weekly motivational content, bonus full-length episodes, and much more, including a book club. Come on. But it's more than just content. Really, you'll be a part of a community that's dedicated to accountability and support, helping you stay motivated and inspired. So just head over to our Patreon, Creative Risk Podcast, patreon.com/Creative Risk Podcast. It's in the episode description as well. And sign up today, you guys. Hope to see you in our community.